Hello, innovators. Hope you guys are well. Hope you're all having a fantastic week so far, and welcome back to another cryptocurrency outlook. Now, it's been a rather tricky week in the crypto markets, and we are unfortunately plagued within weekly wicks, ranges, choppiness, and all sorts of monstrosities from a price action perspective this week. However, I do still remain rather optimistic that we could be seeing an upside move. Now, truthfully, in an area like this, we obviously do have to have that delicate balance between understanding the key risks to the downside, which could snap at any given moment. But I do remain optimistic that we could be seeing a recovery of some sorts. It's really just a question at this point of will the market be able to see in my opinion, bull trap and a drive to the upside, which could provide some fantastic opportunities for altcoins, hence why I've been buying, like I said in the previous video. For me, the only real question at this point is if we are to see the upside scenario I believe could be initiated, is will we just get a quick break to the downside beforehand? Now, following on from our video, and I'm very glad I did that video on Sunday because it was probably quite refreshing for you guys to see me give somewhat of an upside prediction as well. And from the moment we dropped that video, the market actually did recover. Now, if you follow me on X, you would have seen I posted a particular chart, and also on my Instagram, I gave my views and thoughts that the kind of $107,000 to $100,000 region would likely create a pullback possibility. Now, the current thought process for me really is we have a good possibility that the market could be flushing below, for BTC especially, the 100K threshold one more time. My thought process here is quite simple. Right now, you have every influencer that has gone from alt season to new all-time highs, now warning of a black swan. I find that quite sus, to say the very least, because when have the influencers ever been correct? And more importantly, when does a black swan ever happen when everyone's expecting one? But because there's a psychological programming going on for the masses right now, and of course with geopolitical tensions rising, a lot of people would view any form of break to the downside here as likely the black swan. But we know it's highly unlikely to initiate when everyone expects it to do so. So it could actually set a fantastic trap just to possibly see a quick liquidation to the downside, flush out all the longs, make everyone capitulate, and then the market likely recovers to the upside, at least in the short term. We have huge closures coming up, bearing in mind we are reaching the halfway point of 2025 already, which is crazy. I don't even know how we've got this far this quickly. Time is absolutely flying, but we have 3-month closures, 6-month closures, a whole bunch of things looking to initiate here. And generally, the greater movements start to really kick off once you see those closures, which is in around 10 days now. So we're going to be going over this again. And of course, during times like this, you want to be open-minded and not make any decisions. We've been taking a few leverage trades here and there with the members, a few short-term opportunities, and I've started dipping my toes into some buys. But the key for me to really ramp up the size right here, for altcoins in particular, is to see a bit more downside. I've got an adequate positioning within the market now, but I really want to increase that size, but we need to see some criteria. So as always, in situations like this, we don't want to try and be a hero because price action is quite frankly rather unreadable. I personally think we're going to be driving back up to the $108,000 region, if not back to the all-time highs. It's really just a question for me at this point of will we get the quick liquidation to the downside. I'll be breaking this down in the chart and continuing where we left off in the previous video. At the moment in this chop as well, try not to get too engrossed into the market and do anything too crazy, or go too heavy on, leverage positions as well. My best form of advice in these areas is a lot of people will try to predict what is theoretically rather unpredictable right now. The key in these areas is to do what we at Innovation always do and assess the key regions where the market could go with any volatility or sudden bad news. We can use this to our advantage to potentially capture significantly better entries and a major possible turning point in the market. To keep it short and sweet, my overall downside targets are, of course, $80,000 with the possibility to go lower. But before we get there, I do have a good feeling we could be targeting the $108,000, $110,000 region with the possibility of, before that happening, quick liquidation to the downside. If we're lucky, we wipe the all-time highs again. Whether it's going to be by the end of this month or moving into the fresh candle opens of July is yet to be confirmed. But I do have a feeling at this point, with the way this market's moving and the horrible range we're within, the likelihood is moving into July, we could see a bit of a relief to start at least these 6-month, 3-month opens, etc. We'll be breaking this down in the charts. So let's get straight to it. So jumping onto the charts, we've actually started to see a bit of an upside movement since I recorded the introductory phase of that video. I had to do some updates for the members, and we've started to get a bit of a push to the upside region. However, in line with the previous video, I would say the outcome so far has been really, really good in line with expectations. Like I said, at that moment in time where everyone is calling this the crypto black swan, my biggest concern always is when every influencer jumps out of nowhere and suddenly says a black swan is coming, what are they very likely doing? They're programming everyone to start believing and perceiving a black swan is coming. Now, don't get me wrong, as you guys are very well aware, I believe a black swan will inevitably take place at some point. The question really is, where does a black swan take place from? Or where does anything sinister, as we covered in the previous video, begin to initiate? And it's never truly going to be from an area where every single influencer and so-called voice of reason is telling you it's going to happen. Now, with where we are, it's also very important to understand. If we go to the weekly charts right now, where we've slightly adapted some of these regions for you guys, everything right now is in a hot mess. We're still in a range, and we have been since May. Look at the absolute sheer horrendousness of these charts. The weeklies overall, including the monthlies, are just an absolute monstrosity at present. And your best port of call in these areas, of course, is not trying to do anything too stupid, but more so, as always, what I always recommend is waiting for a breakout of either side. Now, if we look at this here, the lows are currently holding. We are generally in a region where I do believe the chance of pushing into the upside is very, very possible here. And I think before anything bad happens, especially when you look at these altcoins like we covered in the previous video, I think there is a great opportunity here that many of these altcoins, such as XRP and Ethereum, can definitely get another push higher. And the key to that, as always, is simply looking at where we are on the total market cap. Will the market proceed lower without driving in to this region, if not flushing that high? I think that is a massive outstanding void, where, of course, if we understand the journey we are under, the recent drops we've seen have been off the initial reactions to Israel v Iran. All the influencers are telling people there is going to be a black swan. So I'm not trying to be a hero in this area and essentially go crazy on any leverage or spot buys, but I think it's a worthwhile area when looking at altcoins that are not in this position and more so on the lower end to justify a bit of buying here, because the next leg lower could really be the initiation point for an upside movement if it doesn't begin to happen from here. Now, the reason why you need to really just take a step back here, not go too crazy on the markets, is because whilst I believe an overall move is coming through, quite frankly, right now, the market in this area, especially on a daily time frame and a weekly time frame, is completely unreadable. I mean, there is only so much you can do with weekly wicks that look like this. And what begins to happen is the market shifts into what is more of a gambling phase, where you're essentially gambling on the outcome of the range getting liquidated. What I do like is that the upside of the total market cap range is yet to be liquidated, which coincides beautifully with the upside trend line over here. And I think this is such a key area because the BTC dominance is beginning to gain some significant strength and is coming in, which has been my target this whole time. And if you follow me on X, you would have also seen I've been very, very vocal about the increase in the BTC dominance. And I do believe it's going to go even higher. The key regions are around 65.3 up into the 66% region. But I think there is a chance here this could be pushing into the 70s. And I've been screaming this since down there. And over time, every single drop we see, again, everyone comes out and says alt season is coming. But if we can see a reversal from this sort of area, there is a good chance that this could coincide and correlate with the possibility of the total market cap pushing into the upper end over here. There is really one thing to truly consider at this level at the moment, and that is what is going to happen before we possibly get up there. Now, this is why I'm saying to be careful, and as always, the special move to do in these areas is just play both sides. Instead of trying to gamble within the range, instead look at the key areas price can go above and below the range. If you were looking for the idea of a move that could take us to the upside, just as we said in the previous video, you want to keep your eyes here. Although we have already liquidated the low, we have not taken out the previous weekly low on Bitcoin, and we have not taken out the previous weekly high. I think there is still a great chance here, as you would have seen from my post on X as well, that we can take out these lows. If this does not happen now and we start to get the immediate push up higher, we then know we're not really going to be looking at this region anymore, but instead, if this is here right now, basically, this is here for the simple risk threshold that if something else happens, we will likely drive at least into that zone below 100K, driving into around the 97, 98K region at the very least. This zone is here to assess where any quick spikes can go. And I think if there's going to be any idea of considering a higher probability long setup to spot buying more altcoins, I would love to see another flush, very similar to this, where we came in, flushed that low one more time, and then drove up to the highs. And we can kind of see a very big similarity now to the previous high we saw during Trump's inauguration over here. We're chopping in this level. A lot of wicks are down below. Market is fluctuating either side, and it's going to be wiping people out left, right, center. The key to a relatively strong upside move is normally a major liquidation candle. And what we've now done is built up significant amounts of liquidity on either side of the market. So if we look at where we are right now, I would say from what we wanted in the previous video was that recovery. And this was the move I showed. And we've now got to pull back down. What you can see here is we are essentially at the midpoint of the overall daily range and weekly range. So at the moment, for the upper end of where we're looking, I'm still looking more for a push in this region. So instead of gambling here for an upside move or gambling here for a downside move, it's far more favorable to wait for one of these regions to be rejected to justify a move. The short-term risk right now for any possible squeeze to the downside is around 102,000 on Bitcoin. And the full-blown liquidation for me is going to be in this area. You do not want to try and be a hero here. You want to sit back and wait. Because I think if we see a flush into this level, possibly by the end of the month, if we're lucky, factoring in where lower moves can go, we could then get the drive up into here. On the opposing side, and yes, I'm saying it's either way at the moment until I can see more clarity. I cannot get much clarity out of this at the moment. So at the moment, all of my initial projections are still the same. But if this was to happen here, I would even look at this for profit taking because I understand the risk is far greater that we're likely going to start heading straight down to 80K. That for me is the great risk. In the short term for the week at the moment, my eyes are still set on another rejection of this possible region around 108 to 109. As you can see, we're in the midpoint between the key support and the key resistance for the upside on a daily and 4-hour range on BTC as well. We've had a huge push to the upside here, but I do not trust this right now. And one of the reasons is what you guys need to possibly pay attention to on the higher time frames is what BTC has actually done here. So whilst we look at the weekly and go, well, there's a lot of choppiness, zoom out, chaos, absolute sheer chaos. Instead, what if we take some deeper signs from this and go to the daily time frame? And then we realize something potentially very indicating of what could be happening here has unfolded. One of the final trend lines once again has now been broken. If we drag this up to here, this was the trend line I was tracking for you guys, and you would have seen me post this on my Instagram as well. And essentially, the real rally, the full trend line, and the full bull run from this area has already been invalidated. So we've created a new low. And pretty much over the course of this week, we have broken this region. So any upside move at the moment, I really find situated as a trendline rejection from the bullish side, possibly driving up into there. And I think if we can get into this region by the end of the week, there is a great risk of beginning to break down. And this is really where I think great opportunities are arising. And one of the main reasons for that is because, again, everyone believes this is the black swan. So I'm really taking it step by step until I can get more clarity from the market. And there will be times where these things do happen. Been very clear and direct from here to there to even over here and what we've been expecting. But with this current day worth of choppiness or so, or the week worth of choppiness, a caution is warranted. And you would really want to wait for the market to give you a clearer signal before making any major decisions, so to speak. I'm very happy so far that I bought some altcoins on that dip on the Friday because it's holding in a very nice level thus far. And remarkably, A lot of altcoin strength is still present, but the key for me to double up those entries into a six-figure region is really going to be ideally a break into or around that 100K or lower level. So just think right now, everyone is looking at the idea of a black swan. That tells me there is no black swan yet. In fact, with where we are here right now, we're just rejecting this trend line as well. This already creates a grave danger. I think the simplistic way and the easiest way to explain this to you is just keep your eyes and be very cautious of this region. Why I'm highlighting this is because if it happens, it would no doubt begin to come through with the contributing factor of some negative fundamentals, because everyone is being programmed to believe there is a black swan in this area. This actually creates a fantastic framework for some opportunities if suddenly we slam down into this region here. Any further pushes, watch out for here, because if we do not get that nuke from here, the likelihood is we'll probably start getting it from around these regions to 102 into the 98 lower region. If this happens and bad news comes through, the low is hit. What do you think is going to happen if everyone sees something bad happen here? Continuation from Israel. Maybe America, as we know, starts to ramp up the idea they're going to get involved as well. This will scare people. There is a lot of geopolitical risks as we are situated in this particular area. We do not want to jump the gun and we do not want to make any wild decisions. But all I know right now is there's a huge target up here. There are billions of dollars of liquidations, around 111,000, but we are beginning to build up an equal amount to the downside below this level. None of these lows have been taken out, and the sudden explosion to the upside is going to be bringing in a huge amount of long positions. And this could be the key to not only causing a short-term wipeout, but also then allowing the market to springboard back up one more time. Basically, liquidating all the longs, causing some capitulation, possibly nuking those altcoins a bit more, and then we could start going in for the next drive. Now, something I wanted to mention to you guys was the higher time frame closures. This choppiness could be warranted to some extent, and in fact, considering what we have seen geopolitically, the market has been very resilient. But if you start to go to a monthly time frame, you can already see we've got a massive doji forming at the moment. This is where you have to play both sides and understand the key liquidations of either. If you come down first, there's a higher probability of going upwards. If you go up first, there's a higher probability in this particular area that if this was to surge up, let's say moving into next month, this would likely lead us straight back down into the 80, possibly into the span of a month or two. The 2-month is about to close in 10 days. The 3-month is on the cusp of closing after liquidating almost everything already. The 6-month for me is a big one here. Very, very dangerous region. If this closes like this, you literally just want to watch for one more possible drive. Could be lucky enough to get a push into the 120 region, but that would likely, in my opinion, begin setting the scope for a very aggressive move to the downside. So caution is warranted here, and you want to be taking this step by step. But I think in terms of what we're looking for on the wider picture, forgetting about all of the short-term movements, looking at BTC alone, my key upside target where I think something bad would happen is still within these high regions. At the moment, it should be more up into the territory of around 115,000. We can refine that over time. But right now, for the movement of getting into this area, around $80,000, I would say the risk of anything bad happening is going to be there. But if we're fortunate enough, and the reason why I'm buying is because I don't want to take charts. If we can see a sudden flash crash into this sort of area, that's where I want to start ramping up the buys. And if we then go over to Ethereum, that's that correlated zone. So a quick glance at Ethereum as well in this area is why I am just looking at this in absolute disgust. This is a monstrosity. I have not seen weekly candles like this in a very long time. And even over here, when there was all sorts of Darth Maul wicks coming through, we were still getting some fluidity and progression to the downside. But this is sheer chaos and choppiness. The key behind all of this is that low is not flushed. So whatever the hell is going on here, it creates a great risk that the total market cap could have one singular wick to the downside. One singular wick like this could easily begin to drop everything down rapidly. This will cause mass panic. And I also believe that the indecision here is intentional for that very reason. You've got a bunch of people gambling on longs, a bunch of people gambling on shorts. But before the market goes higher, you often do need to see a liquidation event of some sorts. And I think this is the perfectly rounded area for this, because if the total market cap can sweep into the $3 trillion region, psychological, paired with some negative fundamentals, there's a great opportunity here for a potential flush out before the market pursues one drive higher, for Ethereum to then go into the $3,000 region, which also happens to be another psychological in itself. I do believe this would be ever so perfectly paired with the idea of the total market cap then going into there. So really and truly right now, I'm sitting on my hands for the week. We've got the developments. I wanted to wait till the end of the week to update you guys because we've had no movement whatsoever. But so far, in terms of a recovery, we've managed to get a bit of that since the video. We're now chopping in this area. I just think, please be very careful here. If you sit back on your hands, don't try and gamble in this level, because a single wick to the downside at this point could provide you far better opportunities. My general consensus remains the same. I think we're going to get another drive higher here, bring back all the FOMO, bring back all the hopium, make everyone believe we're in the clear, and essentially keeping it simple. And once we get this weekly closure, I'll do another update next week. But right now, there's only so much we can cover in this area. But I promised you guys an update, and I want to make sure I get that out anyway. All I know is if we start to break down, I will be ramping up the position sizes on altcoins because I think they are very likely overdue a massive rally. Keeping it short and sweet, somewhere in this region like I covered last week, I think the journey is going to be down to here, if not down to here. The big question is before this possibly takes place, do we get that sharp move to the downside first? In these sort of areas, your risk has to be controlled and meticulously calculated. You cannot be gambling on the outcome of wicks being filled here. You need to be very, very selective and understand that the direction the wick gets filled in first is the direction you then want to be looking in the opposite direction, if that makes sense. As an example, if F bolsters up to here first, the scope immediately shifts lower. If we get a flush down to here, there's a bigger possibility of a drive. For me to see these begin to truly crash down to here, I feel these altcoins would need some more upside to justify and correspond across the board. It's a horrible area, but I think we're going to be out of this soon. And you also need to remember, during times like this, when price action is moving in this way and chopping about in this way, it's a huge indication of huge moves to come. So please take it easy and just remember, when everyone's telling you it's a black swan, it's very unlikely going to be a black swan. Caution is warranted. Take it slow and steady. Do not rush through this week and do not FOMO into any crazy positions. My eyes at the moment still remain on the possibility of a short-term move on XRP to that $2 region. That's a key psychological level. 3 trillion is a key psychological level. The question really is at the moment is where everything goes if the total market cap sees this move. Alts have been resilient. So even if we get a possible flush to the downside, I would say the grave danger for that move to the downside is where we are right now, if not in the $108,000 region, like I covered on X as well. Very, very weird area here. Huge amount of choppiness. Please just be careful, guys. We're going to wait for the storm to unfold, essentially, because this is the calm before the storm. You should be looking at this in a laid back approach, because what you need to understand is there is chaos brewing on the outer side of these ranges. Huge range overall, over a month long now, incredibly depressing to say the least. But what you need to remember is opportunities of a lifetime could be developing outside of this range, which is far more important than trying to do anything in this level. Imagine if you had taken a short here, you would be holding this for over a month with literally nothing to show. The key to upside for me, which I think is going to happen, to be honest with you, is a flush here. Some form of FUD that ends up being a nothing burger is always that gives us the springboard we need. Look at these charts. Very rarely do you see any form of upside. See here? You never really get an upside move without some form of miniature flash crash first, even where the choppiness occurs. And that's why I'm looking at this level and thinking, okay, keep it short and sweet. I think the market is due a move up into this level. Before that happens, wouldn't it be perfect if the market deceives everyone to believe it's on the verge of crashing? Of course, if we do crash here, patience is warranted. Because if we do see an actual black swan, where are we looking? Straight down to the lows, straight down to 80K. A clear, simple level to look for in the event something actually happens. But there's been too much media fear mongering. There's been too much fear mongering and FUD, even for my liking, a man who loves a bit of FUD. There's been far too much FUD from the influencers as well, which is making me think before the actual destruction happens, we're probably going to get the opposite and a great opportunity for altcoins, not just for short-term profits, but if you've been buying altcoins where we've been positioned, potentially giving us an extra couple 100% return on investment as well. Not everyone's going to be in that position, but we are in a lot of these from their all-time lows already. So not only will the existing positions from literally a year ago, if not before, have the prospects of gaining another 100% or so, but even our most recent buy of $50,000, I would like to ramp that up to 100, 150K. The key for me right now is to see some FUD temporarily to justify gaining another entry. If we can see some quicker movements or bigger movements, I'll definitely provide you guys another update. But in the meantime, I think the psychological aspect here and understanding the dangers of each side of the boundary is far more important. It's really simple. I think we're going to get a wipe of the highs, at least a revisit towards the all-time highs. But I do believe before that, at the moment, there is going to be some form of shakeout that will ideally give us all those opportunities whilst everyone else capitulates. Time will tell, but I'll be back for another update as soon as we can break out of this hot mess. In the meantime, keep your eyes peeled on $108,000 in the short term, because that could be a very dangerous area for price.